From Washington, D.C., welcome to the 130th edition of the Harness Racing Alumni Show. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here today with Trade Martin and Bob Marks.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show with your hosts, Freddie Hudson and Trade Martin.
This week's Alumni Show is brought to you by Bill Houghton, insuring standardbreds and farms for over 40 years. Bill knows the ins and outs of equine insurance. Make sure your equine investments are protected. Call or text Bill at 954-655-5547. That's 954-655-5547. Call Bill now.
Hey, Freddie, I heard that Hunterton Farms had a great sale. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Hunterton Farms Steve and Cindy Stewart wish to thank all of the owners and trainers that purchased a Hunterton Farm yearling at this year's Lexington Selected Sale. Hunterton Farm wishes all of you much luck and success with your purchase. Look for the Hunterton Farm consignment at the upcoming Harrisburg sale, November 8th through the 12th. For more information, call Hunterton Farm at 859-987-3983 or email huntertonfarm@cs.com. That's huntertonfarm@cs.com. Joining us today is returning guest, standardbred owner Don Tiger with an update regarding his horse, Charlie May. Don, welcome back to the Harness Racing Alumni Show.
Thanks for having me, Freddie. Pleasure to be here with you and Bob this morning.
Always our pleasure to have you. Don, do you care to elaborate on the current status of the Charlie May disqualification?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to. But before I do that, I want to send a special shout-out. On Sunday, I was at the Lexington Red Mile for the Sire Stakes, or the finals of the Kentucky Futurity. And John Erdner and his horse Jujubee, he supplemented that horse into the Kentucky Futurity, and they won on Sunday. Just a great event. John has been with the Wrights for 30 years, and he's finally got himself a nice horse of a lifetime. Very quiet man, goes about his business, one of the smaller type of players in the game. Greg Wright Jr., another just a quiet family man, horse racing guy's been in it forever, and it's just a treat to see smaller connections like myself have success. So just a big shout out to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as Charlie May goes, we continue to get stronger traction on a daily basis. As I stated on the show when I was here last time, it's the most unique appeal in the history of racing, in my opinion. And I've actually been even told that by judges, attorneys that aren't even not representing me, because I've had a pool of attorneys at different points in time just due to jurisdictional issues with wanting to try to get in the little brown jug, wanting to get somebody outside the box. So I've had guys in Kentucky represent me, Ohio, New Jersey. I've had a good plethora of attorneys, which has been very expensive. But, in all my consults and all my discussions, it goes back to pretty much the same thing is I was interfered with, which then makes B, C, D, E, and F all irrelevant. And that's the whole main focus of our appeal. But again, like I was saying, it's so unique because most of the time when you have an appeal or you have this type of question, it's did this guy do this or did someone do this? And it's completely subjective. And whether we might have strong opinions of what have happened in a race like the Kentucky Derby with maximum security, whether we have strong feelings or opinions in the Hambletonian a couple years ago, and I'm sure a lot of overnight races and different things that happen. They're strictly opinions because the judges have to make a decision on that, and with an opinion, it could go either way. So I've always respected judges in that manner, and it's a tough job. But the Charlie May situation is so easy because what happened if you follow and I always tell everybody, because I've had 500 calls, and I would say 450 of them have been in my camp, and maybe 50 of them have said, hey, I think you should have been disqualified. And when I hear that, and these are people that are friends of mine that have even told me that, I said, did you watch the replay? No, I just watched it one time. You got to watch the replay, because if you watch it live, your eyes go to me breaking stride, kind of rolling right, and that's what you see. But when you watch the replay, then what you see is the 4-horse Southwind Gentry, When he goes up the backside, this is up the backside, he gets roughed. Then they get to the 3/4 pole, and you have to watch just Yannick Gingras. He is kicking out the earplugs. He misses them the first time with his leg. He hits them the second time with his leg. His horse goes on a gallop, runs in the hobbles, makes a break, and comes to slows down fast, considerably. It causes Brett Miller to jerk the right line of my horse because he would have ran over him. I mean, they're traveling the Meadowlands Pace. It's a rainy night. He yanks the right line, which yanks my horse off stride, which causes some confusion behind him. But it's always the culprit that in harness racing, that's the rules. If A interferes with B, then B, C, D, E do not matter. It's who the culprit is of the event. And that's plain as day when you look at the replay. And in addition, Yannick Gingras yelled, but even if that can't be substantiated, he turns into sulky and looks, which again is another sign from professional drivers that they're in distress and in trouble. So the video evidence is undeniable. And then when you come into the top of the stretch, the horse makes a break against Southwind Gentry. So it's easy to understand and surmise that Southwind Gentry was at fault. There's no subjectivity. The horse broke. He broke in the turn. He broke in the stretch. He got rough in the backside. All that stuff adds up. And so, again, there's no subjectivity there.
Has the Racing Commission or anyone else, for that matter, interviewed the drivers under oath?
Not that day. They did have a hearing on July 30th, which was 13 days after the event. And in that hearing was Brett Miller and Yannick Gingras and the 3 judges. And at that time, there was pointed questions and stuff asked back and forth. But at that time, that's kind of like the hearing to say, hey, you know, Brett was guilty. Because, again, I mentioned this on the last time we talked about this show. When a driver creates an infraction, they immediately get days or suspended. Immediately, usually after the race. That didn't happen. They had a hearing to find fault, and they found no video evidence that Brett did anything wrong, so they left him off the hook, which has never been heard of. Usually, I mean, you know, the driver of the getaway car that committed the murder, he's still guilty too. So it's very interesting that you can find parties guilty, but a horse guilty and the driver innocent when they're one and the same, because the horse doesn't drive himself. It's not a dog race.
What did Yannick say at that hearing?
So Yannick, again, I'm surmising because I was not in that hearing. I can only tell you what I was told. I have not heard the redacted transcript yet. We have requested it in Discovery. I will tell you, the legal battles of these things are just I don't wish it on anybody, no matter what side of the fence you're on, because there's so much back and forth, so much discussion, so much stuff. But according to what I have been told in that hearing, he took the stance that we interfered with him. And again, I realize the one thing that you have to understand about this is, and even judges told me this, and I think this is interesting, no driver is going to tell you the truth. But it's still good to interview them. Because like anything, it's no different than a police officer. When a police officer pulls you over, and you guys probably both have been pulled over at some point in time. I know I have, for speeding. They come up and they knock on your door and they ask you, hey, do you know why I pulled you over? All of us, most of the time, we know we're speeding. But what's our answer? I'm not sure, sir. And I believe that that's what Yannick did. He's obviously trying to protect his owner, which is what I still don't. That's just preposterous to me, because to me, you just tell the truth. You know, the truth will always set you free in life. If you're a father and, you know, you're a son, you know, you're a dad, you're an aunt, an uncle, you always want to represent yourself the best you can. So, you know, someone asks you, hey, Yannick, what happened? Yeah, my horse got robbed. You know, okay, well, you know, because the video evidence shows it. Doesn't matter what he tries to say or doesn't say. That's what it said. But I think he tried to put a spin on it and say that we ran into him and hit his wheel, and that caused interference with him, which, again,
right.
You know, I don't know if you're going to get a true story from them, but the video evidence is completely conclusive. The Racing Commission knows it. The judges know it, and everybody pretty much in harness racing knows it. There's a few people that still hang their hat and say, yeah, you should have been disqualified. But I would say the masses, after, I would say that they definitely feel that Charlie got disqualified unjustly.
I agree. And what is your next step?
So we had our, first off, I'll say this too. New Jersey handled this completely wrong, not by the book. There's certain time frames that they're supposed to do. They never did any of that. I was supposed to be notified in 10 days. I was not notified in 10 days. I was still supposed to be notified in writing why I was disqualified. I've never been notified in writing why I was disqualified. They got a hold of me 5 weeks later. A lot of the things that they did, is just due process things that were not handled procedurally correct, which honestly could at the end of the day cause them to, lose not only this lawsuit, but maybe another one behind it for procedural law, due process, that they violated my civil rights. I have a civil rights case now against them. I no longer have just a horse racing case. So there's a lot that goes into this. So we just had a motion filed on the October 8th, and that's basically where discovery is out there. And we've asked for certain things, and they've asked for some things. Their list of things was very small. Ours was larger. So it's I don't know if I can get into all the semantics of all that stuff, but again, we have a very strong case. The folks that are helping me in my camp, these aren't, just a guy at the racetrack that's been sitting there watching races for 5 or 10 years and just gambles and has an interest in that way. These are judges. These are industry professionals. These are professional drivers. These are folks that have adjudicated these type of races at the stand. These are people that have been involved in these races, and they all look at the race the way that we do. And the frustrating part is when I get a call, like the calls come in all the time. Watch the 4th race at Dayton on Saturday. Ed Greeno got rough or broke stride. And honestly, I have not watched the race, so I'm paraphrasing. But he jammed into somebody just like Southwind Gentry did to me, and he got disqualified. If you go back 2 weeks prior to my race, there was a race at the Meadows. Rocky Road Hanover was sitting in the 2-hole behind Perfect Sting. I think it was maybe the Tarport F-Rat at the Meadows. Again, I'm not positive of the race. I know it was a $100,000 race. Rocky Road Hanover took 1 or 2 bad steps. Ronnie Wren was behind him and just had to grab up ever so slightly. And they took Rocky Road Hanover down for interference. So, it's a very common thing for when horses get rough and make breaks and stop in front of horses, which cause confusion behind, for them to be disqualified. And those 2 instances that I just gave you, those are just of recent memory. Those infractions, in my opinion, and my camp's opinion, are a lot less than what Southwind Gentry did to me. So if you're putting a number on it, like a hot scale, you want to go get hot wings, and they're like 10's atomic wing and 1 is a mild wing. I would say Rocky Road Hanover might have been a 2 or 3. I haven't seen the Greeno one, but I've been told it might have been a 4 or 5, and the Southwind Gentry one's an 8 or 9. So I don't know. I don't understand. But procedurally, they had a short amount of time to make a decision. Because of Fox Sports was covering the race, they got pressure to do that. They made a quick decision. They did not interview the drivers. At any point in time in that time, if they would have interviewed the drivers, like all the judges told me, the judges would have been able to pick up enough information to go back, look at the replay, and see and focus on Southwind Gentry. And once they did that, they would have probably blinked him and made a disqualification from him, which would have helped some placings on the other horses. That would have been the right call, and that is the right call. But they missed calls. I get it. Judges miss calls. But what I told you the last time I was on the show, the system isn't a good one in New Jersey, because I just don't know how you can appeal to an administrative law court and that administrative law court's decision not be a final decision. I mean, imagine a good friend of yours gets convicted for vehicular manslaughter because he actually fell asleep at the wheel, and it turns out that he didn't fall asleep at the wheel. A deer ran out in front of him and he swerved, and he goes to an appeal court, and there's a camera there that shows the deer, and they're like, okay, this guy shouldn't have got, he unjustly got convicted. We're going to overturn this. And it will go back to the original court that convicted him and say, yeah, we saw that video, and yeah, but we just want to keep him in here, because we're just going to keep him convicted. Barbaric system, and that's something that needs to change. I don't know. I mean, through this whole process, the calls that I get are, we gotta change the system. We gotta blow this stuff up. And I will tell you, I think there's a massive problem in racing. And I'm going to share something else with you that comes off of Charlie May, but off of the Meadowlands Pace, but goes back to me racing at Lexington in the Tattersalls. So I'm not eligible for the Tattersalls, and but not for me as much, but for Steve, for Brett, for the fans, and we won down there the week before in Bluegrass. I said, let's go back down. Well, I read the condition book, and you can supplement $60,000 to get in the race. Now, I'm a guy that asks a lot of questions, so I call on Monday, especially with what I've been through this year. I call on Monday. And I talk to some high-up people. I get bounced around, and I say, hey, I want to supplement. And I start asking these questions. If I supplement and it's two divisions, does my supplement just go to my race? Does it go to the other race? That's a good question. Does it go to the total pot? I also ask what the total pot is. I also ask how much I have to pay. These are all questions I ask. I get my answers. I call back the next day to revalidate those questions. They tell me the same answers. So then I enter into the race, and I see the overnight, and one of the questions I asked was, if I supplement, because it says right here in the guide, that goes on top of the purse. Yes. It comes out, the money's not on top of the purse. And it's not even on the overnight sheet that says Charlie May supplement. So now I start thinking, like, okay, what went wrong? I called back. They send me to another department. I then talk to that department, and they say, oh, no, they told you the wrong information. How can you tell someone the wrong information, especially when that's their job? Like, this is what they do. They run the races. They set up these things. They make sure that especially if you're supplementing. So then they told me a story that the purse was only $420,000, and my supplement pushed it to $500,000. Don't believe that, because the other two races, the Kentucky Futurity, the Philly division, and the Colt division, if you look at the prots, go back in the Sunday's program, they're weird amounts of money, $561, $371, whatever, and that's all because the supplemental fees are added on top of there, which would make it an unusual amount. And again, I'm not even just disappointed for me, but the person that ran 1, 2, 3 in the Tattersalls, they got a gripe here. And then I go down, and the check they asked me to bring is different than what they told me to bring that day. That one was actually in my favor, but, it's just amazing that we have people in positions in these racetracks, whether it's judges, whether it's administrative, that can't get these things right. And that's a problem. I'm finding out, just as a little guy who's never really gotten into these type of big races. I started out as a groom. Understand, I'm somebody that works my way up. I then started owning a couple horses, just some claimers, and just getting in the game and having fun, like both of you guys who have trained and owned and been involved. That's how it starts out. And then you start saying, okay, I'm going to buy a yearling or two. And it's a tough game. Then comes a Charlie May. And you get lucky. You get a once-in-a-lifetime horse, a once-in-a-million horse. And it's been a great year, and it's a lot of enjoyment. And he's got 940 on his card right now. It's awesome. It's fun. But then you go through this other bookkeeping part of what happened at the Meadowlands Pace, how, that was handled at the supplemental. Because I might not have supplemented. If they would have told me the pot was $400 instead of $500, I'm a financial advisor. I might have done the math and say this isn't worth it. But I asked 2 or 3 times, and they can't get that right. It just blows me away. And then also at the race office, they let a horse race against me in an overnight this year that wasn't qualified. And I asked the question, why? And it didn't fit any USTA standards. I even made many calls. Now, it's just because we want to. Or the pandemic hit, and we want to keep horses racing. Because this horse had made a break and didn't have a clean line. He shouldn't have been in against me. And then another situation where you're running against multiple entries all the time. And I realize that's in the rules. I actually applaud the Borgata and Yonkers, because at least they've said, hey, you're only allowed one horse in these races. The Bluegrass is a perfect example. You know, Ron Burke had 5 horses in the Bluegrass, and it does. I mean, we just have to be honest. Those 5 horses, while they might have independent ownership, they're not going to do anything to hurt each other in a race. So it taints the true flow of the race and the true race. And racing, you know, it has problems right now, and I hope we get it fixed, because I know the 3 of us are huge fans. But things need to change. You have to start. And then you have Lexington sale this past week and a half that record sales. But the problem is most of the people that are buying these horses are the same outfits that the bigger players. So you continue to squeeze the little guy out. And if anyone knows what supports baseball, football, basketball, hockey, all your major, it's the fan. It's not the owners. It's not that. The fans have to come through the turnstiles. The fans have to bet. The people have to pay entry fees. The small guy is what keeps everything going, and we do not cater to the small guy in harness racing at all. And it's on a bad path. And there's a lot of nepotism, and there's a lot of people that that work in race offices. What they need to do is they need to get some people in from the outside. They need to start hiring people from the outside. They need to start bringing people in that are in administrative that might not know racing but know how to handle business and look at things independently, because I guarantee you, if you start bringing people in from the outside, get some commissioners like a Roger Goodell, it comes across his desk, hey, there's 5 entrants in a horse here, or a driver's driving against himself, a horse he owns, or this horse, according to the rules, isn't qualified to participate. They're not going to let them do that. Imagine NFL is a perfect example. If you get suspended, you're out. You know, you're out of the race. Imagine if they said to Von Miller, yeah, you're suspended for 3 days for drug use, but we're going to let you play this day just because. We need some new people. We need some authoritative thing. We need a set of rules that's for everybody. And hopefully it happens.
Hey, Bob, would you like to elaborate on anything here?
I think Don has elaborated, perfectly. I don't really know what I would even say. I completely, agree that having 5 horses in a race is ridiculous. I couldn't help but notice on some of the races that I was watching yesterday with multiple horses in there, I mean, the amount of holes and the amount of tucks that are given. I don't bet anymore, so I really am not qualified to talk about it. But on the same token, I think if I were betting, I would be pretty upset about it. I also noticed yesterday this first-time starter. He wound up. He was 12-1 morning line, and he opens up at 1-9, and basically wins by whatever he wanted to win by. And I noticed that there was more money bet in the win pool on that particular race than in any of the other 11 races. It would appear somebody knew something. That's all I can really say about it. It would appear somebody knew something. And in Charlie May's race from post 12, that's to have to supplement, pay a lot of money to get into a race and then get post 12 in the second tier where you've got horses all around you. That's a tough thing. I thought the horse raced very well. I mean, I thought he raced well enough to win, no question.
Yeah, we were excited. Right. Actually, we were super excited because, Steve Carter, after the race, was like, man, I'm excited about the next couple of weeks because we are going onward to the Breeders' Crown, and the horse continues to show us some stuff. So we weren't disappointed, and I talked to Brett, too, in the evening, and he said that was the best he ever was. So it's just good that the horse is coming into himself. And we're going to go back up to the Meadowlands, and we're going to give him some heck in the Meadowlands Pace, and hopefully the racing gods give us a clean trip, and we can really just show the talent of our horse and find out what happens.
Great. If you're buying or selling your home, Joe Rico is your go-to guy. Joe has been representing buyers and sellers on Long Island for 30 years. He is an expert in all types of sales. Don't settle for average. Call or text Joe Rico today at 516-524-4870. That's Joe Rico at 516-524-4870. 212-221-4870.
Give everybody Joe's email address.
That's Joe Rico, C21 @yahoo.com.
Freddie, tell all our listeners about Crawford Farms.
Crawford Farms wishes to thank everyone who visited their consignment or purchased one of their yearlings at the Lexington Selected Sale. Crawford Farms breeds the best to the best so that you can race the best. We wish all of our purchasers much luck and success. Crawford Farms. Don, thank you so much for being our guest. As always, it's a pleasure to have you on our show.
Pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me, guys. You guys have a great day.
You too. That's a wrap for this week's broadcast of the Harness Racing Alumni Show. On behalf of Trade, Bob, and myself, thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune in next week.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show